Indiana not off to a great conference start in the Big Ten. Did not look good against Michigan State. We'll talk about how they can improve themselves going out throughout the rest of the season and into the tournament, if they make it that far, with Mike Pegram from Pegs.com here in just a second. It's Ford and O'Brien, ESPN Evansville 105.3, and online, ESPNEvansville.com. And let's bring in Mike on the Menards studio hotline. Mike Pegram, he is the founder of Pegs.com. You can also follow him on Twitter, just simply at Peegs, P-E-E-G-S. Mike, thanks for the time. Let's get right into it here. That game against Michigan State on Monday was not good. Ugly is a very good word, I think, for how IU played on Monday against Michigan State. From what you've seen, I mean, is that performance indicative of what we can expect during conference play for IU, or should we not put too much thought into it and just say it was a bad game, let's move on?
Well, it was probably maybe the worst game I've seen a full roster Indiana team play in the last 10 years or so. It was awful, but it was a little bit of an aberration compared to the rest of, or at least the games prior to that. So I think they can put it behind them, but it was not a good thing to see on Monday night.
Now, in your opinion, this is a young team too. By the way, I was looking at the roster last night, and if I read it correctly, and I think I did, I didn't see a single senior on this team. It's freshmen, it's sophomores, and a couple of juniors, including Yogi Ferrell. Are fans and people expecting too much out of this team just because they're IU? Is there still, should we give them more opportunity to grow, I guess would be the question?
Well, Indiana fans are a little impatient, especially given that they didn't make the tournament last year. I don't know if Indiana fans are ready for more than one season of rebuilding. So that there is a little bit of angst especially after Monday night. But it is devoid of not one single senior, and really only Yogi Ferrell has played a lot of basketball for this team before this season.
Now, in your opinion, what you've seen so far, and honestly, through the non-conference schedule, they came out of the non-conference schedule looking pretty decent. You had the Louisville game. Obviously, I don't think a lot of people expected them to win that game. The Eastern Washington game, obviously, that was a major upset and then kind of one of those what in the world happened there kind of things. But they came out of the non-conference schedule looking pretty good. And they did get their first win of the conference schedule against Nebraska. But as you look at this team and what you've seen so far, what is some of the bigger weaknesses on this team for IU?
Well, it's about the smallest Indiana team that I can ever remember. Hunter Priya is 6'8 plus, and he's the biggest guy that they put on the court. Emmett Holt, maybe 6'6.5. The rest of the team, no taller than that, which is really unique at this level of basketball to try to get away with that kind of balance on the roster. But they are an exceptionally good shooting team, and they can drive the ball really well, and they've kind of used that small ball style to get those 11 wins. And they really are, I think, an NCAA team. It's just going to have to do it with small ball.
Well, is that something that maybe showed a little bit on Monday night? They're living by the three, they're dying by the three. Monday night they died by it. There's no doubt about that. But in the Big Ten, which is a solid conference every year, pretty much top to bottom, is that something that's going to catch up to them as the season goes, do you think, or will they survive with this small ball mentality?
Well, I think it's going to be a roller coaster season because they're so offensively oriented. They can't guard big teams very well, and they are so reliant on the three-pointer. So you're going to see them maybe shoot their way to a couple upsets, but then fall against teams that are pretty good defensively. Michigan State's probably, obviously the best team. They played defensively along with Louisville, and they just really fell apart against those two teams when that three got shut down.
Well, they bring Blackman in, and there was a lot of talk about, he's a highly recruited, highly talented freshman, and they weren't sure. Nobody knows till you play a little bit, but he's lighting it up pretty well. Is Blackman a player that IU can maybe build on a little bit, or do you think he's a one or two and done?
I don't think he's a short timer because he's a little short for a two guard. He's really not a point guard, so he's not an NBA fit in that regard. And I think we've seen that he's got a little ways to grow, both as a scorer and learning how to play better against when he's the priority of the defense. And his own defending is really not at the NBA level. He's really struggled to guard people, he really needs at least 2 or 3 years, I think, before he can make the jump. But he is a talented scorer. There's no doubt about it. But teams are now scouting him a lot better. They're not allowing him any space to shoot a jumper.
Talking to Mike Pegram, founder of Pegs.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Pegs, P-E-E-G-S, 2 E's in that, if I said it correctly. And Tom, a lot of conversation before the season got started. Obviously, a lot of off the court issues with this squad, and the Tom Crean's, I guess, leadership maybe and coaching style had been questioned coming into the season. Obviously, right now, sitting, like I said, they came out of the non-conference schedule pretty well. They've had a 1 win, 1 loss in the Big Ten's conference, getting ready for Ohio State on Saturday. Is Tom Crean, does he have to get them into the tournament in order to keep his job at IU after this season?
That's a question I can't answer right now, because I do think it's a little bit up in the air, because a place like Indiana, you don't make the tournament 2 years in a row. It's not going to be well accepted. I think that he's got quite a large buyout in his contract in the area of $10 million plus, so it would be really expensive. But there's probably a decent chance that he would get another season. But there's a lot of talk that people would be willing to come up with that money if they do have another season where they struggle and don't make the tournament. But it's really a lot of money there involved, and we'll see what happens with the rest of this year.
Well, if it's not Tom Crean, then who would it be? Because it's almost one of those things like you almost wonder if IU should be careful for what they wish for. Like, okay, you threw a big enough fit. Tom Crean is gone. Now what? What if you make a lateral move, or there's not that top tier kind of guy that IU expects to be able to get, and then are you just back at square one?
Yeah, I think it's analogous to what happened with Nebraska football. They fired Bo Pelini a month ago, what have you, after a 9-win season, and then they went out and hired. They really didn't find a big-name coach. I heard Mike Riley, whose resume wasn't really any better than Pelini's. To make a change, Brad Stevens is a possibility, but he's only 2 years into his NBA career, and really there's no other names that make a lot of sense out there that have immediate ties to the state or to the university. So, yeah, it is. It could be careful what you wish for, because Tom Crean has had some success, and, he may really be better than what else is out there willing to take the job.
Talking to Mike Pegs, founder of Pegs.com. One more for you, Mike, and we'll let you go. And again, we appreciate the time. Ohio State looming on Saturday, a ranked team. How do you see things, and what does IU need to do, in your opinion, to, score an upset, obviously, if they go in there and beat Ohio State? What do they need to do to get a win coming up on Saturday?
Well, they need to guard people. That's been their biggest weakness. They need to rebound. Ohio State is a really athletic team coming off a real big win in Minnesota. They match up pretty well with Indiana. They just have to come out with a lot of emotion. This was a really embarrassing loss for the program, and a lot of times you'll bounce back well for that, or you go into a rut. So I think we'll be able to tell in the first 5 or 10 minutes where the team is going, and if they don't win this game, things could go south. So they have to play with desperation, even though we're talking about the third game of the Big Ten season.
Mike Pegram, founder of Pegs.com. You can check out his work, obviously, on Pegs.com. Give him a follow on Twitter at Pegs. Mike, appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me.
No problem. Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Take care.
Thanks.